What's up today, guys? You're back with Big Dykes, and I'm back with another banger, man. I'm back with another banger. And you know that every time I say that, it's a for sure banger. Today, man, I had to tap in and learn a few things. You know, usually I do reactions about videos and all that other stuff, man. Today, I'm doing a reaction where I can actually learn something. Today, I'm tuning in with Johnny Harris, and he said on his videos, he's gonna do why your food is so expensive. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a big boy. I spend a lot of money on food. So Johnny, I'm gonna take your advice in this video and I'm gonna watch every single thing and see how I can make my food cheaper because I wanna know why my food's so expensive. So y'all like, comment, subscribe. I ain't doing no more talking. I'm hopping straight into this video.
Eggs, milk, bread, ground beef, butter. Prices at the grocery store are going up, especially for people who spend.
I ain't gonna lie, if you go to the store with your mama, she gonna let you know every time. That price of everything going up, so we gotta figure what this out, Mr. Johnny.
Large amount of their income on food. So a little price shock can have huge effects. Grocery prices that usually go up 1 or 2% a year have started jumping to more like 13% a year.
Prices are going up yet again.
Sticker shock on
I
store
understand,
shelves.
bro. They just want us to freaking starve. They want us to starve to death. That's what they want us to do, bro. Because this is goddamn ridiculous. The price of food is just ridiculous.
You probably don't need to be reminded.
And now, of course, everyone's blaming COVID and broader inflation, and while those are a part of the explanation, there's actually something bigger going on here. I mean, check this out. Food companies are bringing in record profits. CEOs of those companies are making way more just in the last few years, and shareholders are getting huge payouts. So, what is going on?
So they getting buku money, but they going up on prices. What is going on, Johnny?
That is a question I have had for a long time, and we're sitting here in the kitchen, which is also our studio, and I thought, you know, gotta use it sometime, so why not on the video about food? Today we're gonna understand our food system, the vast, complicated, kind of magical food system that provides a lot of us with our nourishment, bringing food from all around the world to our grocery store shelves. And then we're gonna look at the corporations behind this system. I wanna understand what their incentives are, what their power is, and what they have to do, if anything, with the rising prices. I also wanna understand why they're making so much money right now. And ultimately, I want to answer what
I wanna know.
and who
But
is...
wouldn't it be they making buku money because they going up on the prices? Or is that before they went up on the prices they was making money? Come on, Mr. Johnny.
behind this massive increase in grocery store prices. About 8,000 years ago, in what today is Syria and Iraq, you could find humans doing something that was pretty unique for the time. They're growing food, and in fact more food than they actually needed, and then started trading it with other people who had more than they needed. Now this was new. If there was one group who lived near a salt mine and another group
See,
who grew
me,
wheat,
back in the day, I would have been thugging. So you trying to trade an apple for this blunt? I don't care. I'm trying to trade anything. You trying to trade that nana for some more nanas?
make a surplus, they would swap their goods, and both would be better off. A super basic idea that changed everything. Humans started doing this at a more and more massive scale, crossing seas and deserts, building empires to move goods, to share tools.
I didn't know that food was made in 6,000 BC. So what the hell they was doing in the 5,000 BC? You know what I'm saying? Because if they didn't have food, how the hell y'all eat?
To spread ideas. And the collective human focus became, how do we do this better, bigger? We invented technology to improve it. We fought wars over it. We created money and companies and laws, entire systems just to trade more stuff with more people. Trade was changing the world.
Facts.
And a lot of the history of our world is the history of trade. It's what spread ideas and technology and flavors around the globe. Arabic math and Chinese inventions, tomatoes arriving to Italy, chilies arriving to Asia, corn to Africa. Coffee arrives to Europe in like the 1500s and blows everyone's minds, contributes to a whole revolution in thinking.
This is crazy.
But despite all of this global trade and improvement in connecting the world and bringing flavors everywhere, food still remained quite expensive. You still had to work really hard just to feed yourself and your family. Agriculture and food preparation required immense physical labor, involving entire households in the effort to produce sufficient calories to survive. Like, we have data from the late 1700s that shows that people in Britain spent 75% of their income just feeding themselves. Around the same time in France, they were spending about 70% of their income on bread alone. Oh my god. Is there anything better than just white bread?
No.
Okay, but soon
I ain't lying. I can eat bread by itself all the time. I'm from the trenches. All we had in my house was bread. That's all I got right now. That's what.
Changing and fast. Let's graph it. Look what happens by the year 1900. A household is spending more like 42% of their income on food. Then in the 30s, it goes down to 34%. Just keeps falling. After World War II, something really dramatic changes in the global economy. The US and its allies built a global economic system meant to connect the globe. Maybe if everyone's economy was connected, it would all be benefiting too much to fight each other, was kind of the thinking.
And America wanted to set the rules for everyone, and they successfully did.
And with this new system comes a whole new level of efficiency and connection, like these magical boxes that can go seamlessly from ships to trains to trucks, drastically cutting costs and loading time. The world standardized around everything from railroad sizes, pallet sizes, paper sizes, barcodes, shoe sizes, screw sizes. It's invisible stuff. This isn't sexy, but it's important. It's transformative. The whole idea being that if everyone's using the same system, everything, everywhere becomes more efficient. Trade gets better. Now a tractor part made in South Korea snaps in nicely to a tractor in Kansas. And then there was the US dollar that everyone could use as the global currency, along with international agreements that laid the rules for modern trade.
Oh, so basically the dollar was made, money was made for trading. Everything is a trade. When you think about it, it is. Because I'm going to trade you this food for this money. I'm going to trade you this gas for this money. Money is a trade. That's why they say get into trades. Makes sense now.
Like the 1950s, and the whole world is being stitched together in ways our ancient grain trading ancestors could have never imagined. And this is why today almost everything you touch has gone to more countries than you have, because it traverses a huge network of the global economy. We call it the supply chain. Like, look at an iPhone, albeit kind of crap.
Feel like I'm in social studies class right now. I ain't lying, I'm learning though. I'm learning.
This iPhone traveled to 43 countries before it ended up in my hands. Okay, but food isn't an iPhone. Food is squishy and perishable and needs to kind of be refrigerated. It doesn't go through the same, like, advanced global supply chain that other stuff does, right? Wrong, actually. This is a beautiful tomato that was grown here in my local area that I bought at a farmer's market. Full disclosure, did not buy this. My producer bought it and I am holding it now, and I will probably eat it with this bread and this coffee after I'm done shooting this video. Anyway, this costs $6, okay? This is a $6 tomato. Take it in. That beautiful tomato.
This is a beautiful tomato.
5 miles from my house. Okay, then we've got these tomatoes. They don't look that much different, a little more uniform. These are tomatoes that came from the global economy. They're all basically the exact same size. These have come to me from very far away, not in this country. We actually do grow a lot of tomatoes here in the United States, over in California, but most of our tomatoes are grown in Mexico. 4 billion pounds a year come into the US. So here we are in northern Mexico, here in these endless, fertile fields. I've actually spent a lot of time in this region, not as a journalist, but as a Mormon missionary, riding in pickup trucks through fields that grow food destined for US grocery stores.
El Puente.
Anyway, let's not look at my bad Spanish. Let's talk about the journey of a tomato. They're often picked while they are still green. They're not ripe yet. Often picked by hand and then loaded into trucks. A tomato like this will often go into a sealed room where they are gassed with ethylene to ripen them. Ethylene is just a naturally occurring hormone that helps ripen these guys. And they want them to all ripen at the same time, right as they get to the grocery store. But we have a long way to go before we get to the grocery store. So they're pumped with this gas. And then if they're going into cans, which a lot of tomatoes do, they go through this industrial factory wizardry. But for the ones that are gonna end up like this, fresh, they are on a truck headed north. They end up in a nearby city, probably the capital, Culiacan, in this big facility where they are sorted, chilled, and then put on big pallets. They get back onto a truck, which, by the way, all of these trucks are refrigerated. That's a big logistical challenge to make sure these things don't get too hot or cold. And now the truck is heading north. It gets to the US-Mexico border. Look, this is where people go back and forth.
What I'm learning is I gotta take more trips in life. These damn tomatoes been everywhere.
The two countries. But over here is a special border crossing just for trucks. Our tomatoes are in one of these. It clears customs, and then it probably ends up at one of these transfer stations where the trailer might be transferred on to another truck to an American driver who will take it from there. The tomatoes are now in the United States. Once in the US, they might be re-ripened and repackaged. Then they eventually take a long-haul trip on America's freeways, ending up at a distribution center like this one in Illinois. Here, tucked into the endless expanse of farmland, is this massive building.
So the Walmart distribution center is in Illinois. I gotta go to Illinois, and I gotta see that big Walmart. Okay. Are we allowed in there?
The tomatoes are unloaded, they're scanned for inventory, they're repackaged, and then they're back on the road, headed towards the grocery store. And I promise I'm getting close here. Okay, we've arrived at the grocery store. This whole journey was 9 days, about 1,000 kilometers or 620 miles, and the tomatoes are finally stacked in the vegetable aisle, ready for you to buy a pound for $2, bring them home, chop them up, and throw them into a sauce. Bon appetit. That was crazy, right? Like that whole journey, like your tomatoes came all the way from a farm in Mexico and they somehow made it to the grocery store without being smashed or like going bad and are somehow significantly cheaper than this? How does that work? Like, how does that make any sense? And it's not just tomatoes. Avocados are picked by hand in southern Mexico, sorted, chilled, trucked, and displayed in the northeast of the United States in the dead of winter for like $3. Most of our vegetables in the United States come from other countries, like 60%. And of course, you can imagine that it gets more complicated with animal products, eggs, milk, meat. But this is your food system, our food system. The majority of us participate in this food system.
Wait, pause. I'm about to get into the part where I say why the food is more expensive, and these journeys are really important. But I wouldn't be able to make these videos without sponsors, and so I need to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, who is Incogni. I'm a big fan of Incogni because it has changed my world as it pertains to junk mail and robocalls and annoying texts and privacy. It turns out that in the same way that there's a big invisible market for tomato shipping, there's also an invisible market for your data.
Giving me an ad right
your
now.
Birthday, what you do online, what you buy, where you live.
Come on, Johnny.
This is valuable stuff, and it is quietly traded in the background without you really knowing about it. You've agreed to it by clicking these boxes, and now legally these data brokers have your information and they can sell it as a commodity to insurance companies, people search sites, marketers. But in the same way that they legally can do this, you legally can ask them to not do it. But it's hard and cumbersome and annoying, which is where Incogni comes in. Here's how it worked for me. I signed up for Incogni. I gave them permission to go request that I be taken off these lists. Incogni does this in the background, month after month. I get added to a list.
might have to go with Incogni.
Goes and asks that company to take me off the list. And what I get to do is just watch it all happen in the background. Check this out. Sign into my Incogni account, and boom, I get this. This is a dashboard that is the status of all of these requests that Incogni has done for me. How many they've sent out, how many are still in progress, and how many they've completed. How many lists I've been taken off of. 685. They even give me this fancy graph. This is my privacy being reclaimed. They now have this thing called custom removals, where you can just go on, and if there's a website that you think your data is on, like if you find yourself on a people search site or whatever, you can send that to Incogni, and they will go out on your behalf to request that you be taken off. I mean, it's just great. So if you want to get 60% off an Incogni plan, you can use my link, which is incogni.com/Johnny Harris. You get 60% off if you do the annual plan.
I'm using that
I've
link.
been doing the annual plan for 2 years.
Make sure y'all tap in with Johnny.
Why I have 685 completed requests, because Incogni kind of monitors constantly. As you get added to lists, they continue to request that you be taken off lists. It's a way to reclaim your privacy if you're into that stuff, if you don't like your data being bought and sold without your explicit knowledge or permission. Incogni might be a good fit for you. I'm also just grateful that Incogni comes back to sponsor our videos and support our journalism. We wouldn't be able to make these videos without them. Okay, let's dive back into the supply chain, the tomato journey, and the answer to this very important question. So why is food suddenly way more expensive? Well, there are two answers to that question that we're about to get to. The first one will make a lot of intuitive sense because we just traced the journey of a tomato. The second one will boil your blood. Answer number one, something happens along the way. Like, let's go back to this map, and you see that in this journey, your tomatoes passed through farmers and packagers and cold storage and drivers and customs brokers, international trade treaties, warehouses, wholesalers, grocery stores. If any part of this system breaks or becomes more expensive, or if there's a power outage or a storm or a frost or a drought or gas prices spike, workers go on strike, there's a new tariff, that can make any one of these steps more expensive. And it is you, the final customer, who will pay that price. We call this a supply chain shock or shortage. And it's kind of ironic that the system that makes food more accessible and cheaper is also the same system that makes our prices fragile. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we getting finessed. We cannot as finessed. We paying high as hell for this food, and the food is cheap. That's basically what he's telling us. We need to start going our own. The easiest way is to grow your own food, bro. We all know that. We gotta grow your own food, because this...
One, supply chain shocks. And over the last 4 years, I mean, you know, there's kind of been a lot. There was obviously COVID, but that was just the beginning of a domino effect. There was a drought in the Mediterranean, so olive oil prices went up.
Climate-related issues have screwed up fresh produce writ large. There are both climate stuff that affects how much you can grow, but also sometimes climate then interacts with like disease outbreaks.
A freeze in Texas wiped out a bunch of citrus.
These farmers are experiencing some of the worst conditions ever. Because of the drought, the ground is just not fit for grazing, and like many others, the rancher here has had to cull his herd because it's more economical than feeding them.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine messed with a lot of industries.
The war in Ukraine spiked wheat prices there for a little bit and also spiked fertilizer prices. And the issue is Russia controls one type of fertilizer, but not two others. And so it meant farmers had to like retool all of their systems to switch to the other fertilizer. And then there was a run that was too fertile.
So some countries have control over certain things, you know. Mexico had control over the corn. He's telling us like, who that was? There was like fertilization. They have control of fertilization. It's like, bro, like, what does the United States have freaking control over? We don't have control over nothing. We need to get control over something, because I'm hungry. We gotta find a way for these prices to go down.
Palm oil got really screwed up there for a while because Indonesia decided to temporarily ban exports because prices were increasing so much. So they wanted to make sure they had enough supply. This was also kind of in the wake of Ukraine. And so vegetable oil prices were up.
A hurricane in Florida messes with orange groves. The Houthi rebels in Yemen are firing rockets at these merchant ships that are the lifeblood of the global economy.
Canada, the largest producer of canola oil, had a big drought. And so that dropped. Meat processing during the pandemic, there were massive COVID outbreaks in meat packing, and so they had slowed down a lot of line speeds because there were fewer workers, and so just like less meat was getting slaughtered.
I didn't know that. I didn't know, but that does make sense, because the more people you got working making that meat, that's the more people that got COVID, and that's more COVID in that meat. So you better get up out that meat. Leave that meat alone. That meat ain't good for you. That's COVID meat. I'll tell you. We learned it.
And then, of course, there were shortages in random things like packaging and trucking and cold storage and shipping containers.
During COVID, production of aluminum cans was lower because factories were closed, but then trade wars over aluminum has affected cans. And so for a while, soda was being affected and beer were being affected.
Each shock to the system triggers a reverberation through the rest of the system, which makes things more expensive and unpredictable. The price goes up, and eventually the price of your final product, the thing you see on the grocery aisle, has gone up. Okay, so no one's disputing that supply chain shocks are a major reason why prices have gone up. But this isn't actually the full explanation. There's something bigger going on here, and that gets to my second answer to the question of why grocery prices are more expensive. I'll just say it up front here, which is we've all been kind of tricked, and there are people making a lot of money off of us being tricked about prices.
Basically in COVID, I think there was kind of a reckoning of customers were pretty understanding when companies said, hey, you're going through hard times and so are we. Like, our costs are going up. There was kind of this reset. The American consumer has gotten so used to having a really cheap thing delivered to their door in like 2 hours, right? Like in Econ 101, they teach you about a supply and a demand curve, right? And as you increase prices, the number of units you sell goes down. And what you're trying to do is like maximize those two things of like, I can sell as many products as I can make for as much as this. And like, that's, you know, the price that you set.
The invisible hand, yeah.
Right. Yes. And so if you increase prices, you expect intuitively to sell a little bit less. Now you can like jigger it enough that like the total is a little bit higher. But what companies realize is they could inch prices up and see no or very little reduction in consumer demand. And so they kept doing it.
This will be clear very soon because there's a lot of examples of this, but the best one that is on my mind is eggs.
The egg price is out of control.
Eggs are insanely expensive right now. Maybe by the time you're watching this, they will have gone down a little bit, but over the last like 3-4 years, egg prices have gone crazy. And what's the explanation that we're all hearing? Yes, the bird flu, culling millions of hens.
Bird flu. Already, more than 90 million birds have been killed since the outbreak started.
I mean, if you are an egg producer and suddenly there's an outbreak of bird flu in all of your farms, like that's a huge deal. That'd be like really terrible, right? For your business. You're like, man, our product is being killed by...
Man, bird flu, swan flu, anything, bro. It can cause a damage on anything. So I felt like But I remember I had the bird flu once. It probably was one of the worst flus you can ever catch, bro. One of the worst flus you can ever catch.
US's biggest egg producers' profits triple as prices soar. Wait, triple? Profits? For the biggest egg producer. Oh, and if you look at the biggest egg producer's stock price, you see this. Right around the time when the avian flu is happening, their stock price is going nuts. Time to get out their annual report. Annual report for Cal-Maine Foods, Inc. They're a privately traded company. They must disclose all of their financials, which means we can get a little more insight as to how they fared during this time when there is a crisis in our egg economy. And all of us are paying like more than double the price for a dozen of eggs. This is 2023, and it looks like its shareholders got paid $250 million in profits. Okay. Right in the middle of the bird flu crisis. You wouldn't think that they would be profiting that much, but is that a lot? $250 million? Maybe that's not that much. Let's graph the dividends, the profits paid out to shareholders. Whoa, okay. Well, 2023 was a great year for the largest egg producer in the United States, despite like all of this avian flu. So in 2023, they paid $250 million. The year before, they paid $6 million. So they had a 40 times increase in the profits they paid out to their shareholders, right in the heart of when all of us were going to restaurants and seeing these signs. We're raising prices on eggs because there's a bird flu, so we have to pay more. But the company making the eggs is profiting a lot more money. It's not just revenue. It's not like they're making more money and their costs have increased a bunch, so they are profiting. They are making way more money after all of their costs, and we're all paying more. Oh, and this year, 2025, their profits...
No, they got me fucked up. They finessing me out the eggs, son. They finessing me out the eggs. They got a damn over the eggs, son. Man, we got a slide. Man, somebody call Young Boy.
Are up 342% in Q2 of this year. I mean, just to mic drop, like drive this home, let's put these two graphs next to each other. This one is the price for a dozen eggs. It's gone up a ton because of bird flu. And this one is profits for shareholder of Cal-Maine Foods, going up at the same time. So these graphs tell a story of a company that was able to raise prices more than what they needed to cover their costs. And they were somehow able to do that. Can we just look at the supply of eggs in the United States just real quick?
Nah, that's fire, bro. That's fire.
We're gonna try to do some.
This graph, there's the price. Price goes up here, right? Now let's draw on the number of eggs produced in the United States during this time. Here's the outbreak of the avian flu, early 2023. Now I'm going to draw on the number of eggs produced in the United States. If I were guessing, I hadn't seen this chart before, I would imagine it would look something like this, like eggs, 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 flu happens, production of eggs plummets. When there's less supply, prices have to go up, and that's why prices went up. Now let's draw on the real shape. Again, number of eggs produced in the United States. Boom. Kind of barely dips. Yes, avian flu was a real thing. I'm not like drawing some like conspiracy theory here that like this is not real, but like this crisis was as much about storytelling as it was about supply and demand. We all accepted way higher prices because of these.
They finessed me, dog. They finessed us, dog. Y'all got us. Y'all dirty motherfuckers. Y'all got us. See, US, y'all around here playing games. Y'all think they ain't gonna know about them. I know about them eggs now. Yeah, Johnny told me. Y'all got me paying way higher for them eggs than I'm supposed to. Shout out to Lil Johnny. I ain't getting eggs no more.
Because of all of this news. And in fact, thanks to COVID, we were kind of used to hearing about supply chains and paying higher prices and waiting longer because of something that's out of our control. This is the driver of inflation, right? But what this story tells is that there's a company that, by the way, controls 25% of the market.
Basically, Johnny just letting y'all know there is no inflation on eggs. We just paying higher for them.
A huge player, the largest player by far in the egg economy, that has the ability to raise prices even when they don't need to increase costs. And that company, by the way, if you chart how many eggs they were making, during the crisis, they were actually making more eggs and just selling them at a way higher price. So of course their profits tripled. Of course their shareholders made off with huge dividends. You can read a lot more about this in a couple really good reports that were very helpful for our reporting, one of which concludes that corporations firms have used this outbreak of avian flu as a smokescreen for raising prices beyond what was necessary to cover any rising costs. This is the kind of stuff that happens when one company owns a huge portion of an industry. They just have a ton of control and they're able to manipulate the market. That is supposed to be a competitive space where all the firms compete for customers by lowering their prices as much as they possibly can. But our modern food system has become more and more consolidated. 4 firms handle 85% of all beef processing in the US. 3 companies control 78% of all pasta. 2 firms own 70% of the canned tuna industry. 1 company dominates seed genetics. 70% of all grocery stores flow through just 4 chains. This level of consolidation means that companies don't compete on prices, they match prices. And when there is a crisis, they're able to take advantage of that to help spread the narrative and signal to the rest of us that prices have gone up because of this crisis, when really they're just padding their bottom line. There's a bunch of lawsuits happening.
Man, no way we've been bamboozled. I feel so played, dog. So this whole time, they be blaming stuff on inflation, when really there's no inflation. They just going up on the prices just because we see a reason to go up on the price. Oh, they got this sickness round, we can go up. They gonna flash. They gonna be around this bit tripping. Oh, they got this round, we got to flash. Bring the prices up. They about to go to that store, bring everything up. Oh, we can blame this on this hurricane. It just smashed everything. Yeah, bring the prices up. Y'all wanna come get everything? They say we ain't low on it. Y'all think we low on it? We ain't low on it. We just, yeah, man. No.
Right now, because of this, McDonald's is suing meat companies for colluding to keep prices high. Frozen potatoes for your French fries, also very consolidated. Also some like price manipulation allegations there. A big turkey producer is in the middle of a price fixing scandal. They've had to pay out settlements. $32 million here, $4 million there. I mean, this is kind of a cost of doing business when you are a big industrial food producer and you use your power to cash in. So we've been told a story that these crises, COVID and supply chain shocks, are at the root of inflation, of prices going up. But there's now pretty compelling evidence that corporate profits, their ability to take advantage of these crises to raise prices above where they need to be, is a major driver of inflation. I mean,
corporate y'all down bad. And y'all done messed up, let me see this video. I'm gonna make sure everybody know.
we're paying more money and we're making these companies way richer. Corporate profits are at an all-time high despite some volatility in the economy. Last year, margins reached over 16%, which is the highest on record since 1950. And it's not just in food, it's across all sectors.
The CFO of Hershey in 2023 said on an earnings call to the company shareholders, quote, "Pricing and productivity gains more than offset inflation and higher manufacturing and overhead costs." In non-Wall Street speak, that says, we increased our prices well above what our increased costs were. Like our costs for sugar, cocoa, etc. have gone up, but we have been able to not only pass all of those costs on to consumers, but then some, increasing our profit margin. Hershey's wasn't the only company to say this. Virtually like the vast majority of S&P 500 companies said this. Frito-Lay and PepsiCo, for example, did the same thing where they said, we've been able to rapidly increase kind of our pricing actions is what they call them, which just means increasing prices.
So profits are soaring while a family of four who's surviving on a thrifty food plan is seeing their costs for food increase by 30% or more over the last few years. More and more turning.
They dirty. They some dirty dance. But I know now. I'm telling everybody.
To government programs. And so now our taxpayer dollars are going to help inflated prices to make shareholders rich. And it's not a good setup. It's not a good set of incentives. It's not a free market. This isn't good. And yet, luckily, there is some hope here. The Department of Justice is already investigating this egg price fixing allegation. Cal-Maine has already been accused of doing this in previous disease outbreaks.
Now, the largest supplier of eggs in the U.S. now under federal investigation related to sky-high prices that consumers saw for several months.
But what really needs to happen is a breaking up of these food companies that have so much power in the market. Food isn't like other things. It's not like vacations and cars and things.
We getting finesse. We getting finesse. That's what y'all need to know.
Discretionary. Mexico is experimenting with the government coming in and putting a price control for a basic basket of food, using their power to negotiate with food corporations to keep prices affordable for the basics.
One place that grocery prices really didn't increase all that much was Mexico, and that's because Claudia Sheinbaum's administration did this thing called, in Spanish, it translates to basic basket. And so for the equivalent of like $40, you can get enough food to feed your family of like rice, beef, a couple vegetables, a gallon of milk, these basics. And in fact, that price has come down by like 12% over the past year. And she did this, it's effectively a price control, but it's voluntary. So in fact, Walmart of Mexico participates in this program. But she got a bunch of farmers and suppliers and retailers to all buy into this program. She negotiated this big deal. And they all offer like a basic basket of goods for a low price for Mexican families. She just used kind of the weight of the government to say, hey, I think groceries should be cheaper for Mexicans, and how can we work together to do it?
Haremos un acuerdo para que continúe la estabilidad, que no sube el precio de la canasta básica con los empresarios.
So, there is some movement happening here. The reality is our food system is amazing. It has made food much cheaper than it was. But it has some real weaknesses. Weaknesses that are being exposed in the last few years.
Yeah, we getting finessed.
And that a lot of people are feeling when they go to the grocery store. Those are market failures, and that is where the government steps in to ensure that our food system works for the consumers, the people who need to be able to rely on affordable food, and not for the corporations that provide it.
Hey man, I ain't gonna lie. After watching this video with Johnny Harris, I learned a lot. I feel like I was in a social studies class, but I learned a lot. All y'all should tap in with it because it's gonna teach you more on why your food's so expensive. And it shouldn't be. But y'all like, comment, subscribe. I'm done this video. We got more on the way. And don't forget that one thing. Big Dice!